Hello and welcome to episode 428 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Got nothing else to say after that.
Do you need anything else to say, Dan?
No.
You don't need to say anything else.
But the script would dictate we'd introduce our third
Script?
host.
How dare you? Actually, the weird thing is, the most obvious lines, like the first couple of lines of this podcast, I've still got written out.
Yeah.
You think like after 420 plus episodes, it's ingrained in my brain, but you know. But episodes of Comic Book Chat. Welcome to the show, everyone. Obviously, it's just me and Dan this week.
Yes, just the two of us.
Because
well, sort of.
Tony is out and about, and he's been doing some comic conventions in the US of A. Big hello to all our American listeners over there. Maybe
He sounds like he's having a fantastic time.
Yes,
I've got to say.
He also sounds like he's been talking non-stop and hasn't slept. So we had a chance to catch up with him, and he's going to tell us about his journeys to Baltimore Comic Con and SPX fairly shortly. In fact, that'll come pretty soon, actually, because me and Dan, we talk to each other all the time, Dan. You know, just solitary staring into each other's eyes. Yeah, shooting the shit.
Two different takes on that.
Yeah. Maybe this relationship isn't what I thought it was. But I tell you what I think it is, and what I think it is awesome, is our lovely sponsor, Comic House. Yes, if you listen to this show, you've heard us talk about them many times. Well, every week, actually, because they're a sponsor. They are an indie comic marketplace with a difference, and they love indie comics as much as we do, and as much as you do out there. If you listen to this show, you're obviously interested in not necessarily the mainstream side of comics, making comics, indie comics. Perhaps you create comics yourselves, and people like Comic House are the people you want to go to. If you can, on the Comic House website, if you self-publish, you can list your book on there, and it's another avenue to get your work out there into the world, and people have an option to buy hard copies. If you've got digital copies of your comic, they also have an app, or if you like reading digital comics, as I do, that's where I get a lot of my comic content right now.
Same.
And if you go to comichouse.com, there's a featured selection on the site that's being added to all the time. Dan, what's on there at the moment?
We've got the Long Game by Carrington and Samel. I'd recommend that from Hardline Comics. That's a fantastic read. We've got Phantoms of the Lake. We've got Section 12, Flashback, Issue 1, and a whole host of other titles, including stuff by us. You can all be found on the Comic House app.
Indeed. Creations by all of the people that have been on this show. That host this show, as well as a lot of past guests, current guests, future guests, all kinds of guests. Got a bit timey-wimey there. But if you've got digital books, instead of them gathering dust on a hard drive, upload them to the Comic House, and basically for £3 a month, or whatever your currency is in the world, you get access to all of those comics and more. And there's a 14D. I'm obsessed with you, Dan.
That's D&D.
Yeah. To find out more and start your 14-day free trial, go to comichouse.com. And thank you to them, as always, for sponsoring the show.
Yeah. I'd say, like, if you've got a PDF of your comic knocking around and you want to get it in front for human eyeballs, it can't hurt to put it on Comic House. There's no loss.
Yeah, totally. And while we're here, we're just going to say it straight at the front now. If you're like an artist or an indie comic creator, this show is, and very much indie comics itself is very much it's a community business. Especially when you step away from big corporations and stuff, it's completely a community business, and you have to sort of cultivate that community and help it thrive, and everyone helps each other up, etc., etc. And the ACP has a little bit of a community. And there's a drink and draw coming soon, isn't there, Dan? We want to say this right from the front, just in case we get carried away chatting and it's like the last thing we mention before we hang up. Yeah. So
be this Friday, 15th of September. Usually kick off about 7:30. The details will be on Twitter or on the Slack group. It's usually hosted by this chucklehead, Tom Curry.
Tom Curry. Yeah.
Pop along. You can drink. You can draw. You can do neither. You can laugh at jokes, tell jokes, whatever you want to do. But usually we just get together, draw, talk about our stuff. Every so often we'll have a look at what each other's working on, and it's generally really nice, friendly atmosphere. If you're kind of like a small indie creator or just a fan of comics or like listening to the show, pop along and you get to listen to interact with us in real time, as it were, and then many other small press and indie creators. If you've got questions about like process or anything, that's a fantastic place to ask it.
Yeah, because that like one chat could lead to a 20-minute conversation about pens. I know because I've experienced. Yeah. I mean, if you're an artist, that you've got a serious thing for stationery, probably. I know I do.
Oh yeah, it's just constant fucking turnover. I saw one thing this week. Maybe we should leave it for after chat, for after the Tony Talk. We'll come back to it. But Procreate are releasing a new standalone app. Have you seen this?
Really? No. Go on.
It's an animation app, in the same vein as the drawing one for iPad, and you pay like a one-off fee of like $15 or $20, and you've got it for life. And it's all about animating. So it seems like what they've done for bringing like an Adobe style app to the tablet, now they're bringing like an animation After Effects type thing to the iPad Pro. So
interesting. I wonder how they've sort of what that's going to be like in terms of like technology and stuff.
I did have a look at like the demonstration video, and it's like, well, it's relatively. It's like you've got a timeline with like different segments and stuff. So it may be a nice thing good thing to look into.
Yeah, certainly. And comics and animation are very much in the same family.
Bosom buddies.
Yeah, especially hand-drawn animation. I don't know about you, but that's I prefer that.
Totally. There's a kind of there's an energy and a life in it that is often missing with 3D stuff. I find.
And there's something I think that like Western audiences, are very much we have the 3D animation, the 3D movies, etc. But you go on like any streaming service or Netflix, there's so much anime, isn't there? Just the quality of work.
And you go back to the old the Ghibli films when they were hand drawn and stuff. It's like Akira are saying that's just an absolute standout of
some Ghost in the Shell. There are moments in Ghost in the Shell just like it's unbelievable what can be done when you pick up I was about to say a pen and a pencil, but it's a bit more than that. I know, I understand. It's a bit more than
that. I'm wondering just about the kind of the cross-pollinating stuff from Procreate to animate. Do you know what I mean? I think I'll be getting the app just because $15 was $15, just to give it, even if it's to play around and say, well, this ain't for me, but just to sort of see what it's like. Interesting.
Yeah, but Procreate's a great program. That's the one.
I fucking swear by it. I love it.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
I want to try Clip Studio at some point. I've got it, but I haven't sort of. It was one of those you buy. When you buy two books at the same time, but one of them gets read and the other one gets put on. It's that kind of thing.
It took us a little time to make the jump to digital, but like now, since I took it, I was like, I don't know how I'd have. Done this.
I'm getting that itch though, man. I'm getting that itch to just do some pen and ink sketches and stuff because
I've gone back and penciled stuff when I want to get stuff done quickly, like do that, and that is scratching that itch, but with maybe a different pen, as it were. We're going back to the old kind of pen and paper, real.
Yeah. Keeping it real. That's what we always do on this show, and we're going to continue to do that. So in a minute, not in a minute, but in a little while, me and Dan are going to talk some more about comics and recommend some comics and do some shout-outs. It's light and breezy this week.
Yes.
For us, but for someone else, they chose to wake up very early in the morning to talk about some comic conventions with us. So, should we listen, Dan?
Yeah, take it away, Mr. Esmond.
Right, we just got to start this off by saying, what on earth are you doing awake at this time in the morning?
Just for you boys. I love you.
And the listeners.
Sure
they appreciate
Amazing.
it.
Did you hear it, everyone?
We love you.
He must be tired or medicated because Tony...
About 3 hours ago, I was in a Japanese restaurant with Steve Laffer and Sam Arthurs and shouting at people because I thought it was funny. And I got a bit of sleep, and now I'm in the hotel lobby with security eyeing me from a distance. Thinking, what's that fucking bloke doing, swearing down his Zoom? Also.
Oh dear, but we're glad you're okay and having fun, Tony. Obviously, listeners, me and Dan have been seeing the classic candids over the past couple of days of Tony Esmond on a convention escapade or expedition, as we'll probably call them from now on.
Sexpedition.
A sexpedition.
Right, girls, come to my hotel room.
But of course, yes, once again, you've been over to the States and been enjoying Baltimore and SPX. So we're just going to, basically, we're going to let Tony have a sleep in a minute. But first, we demanded he got up and speak to us, and so we could get some information before he could do anything else with the rest of his day. But so it was Baltimore first, right?
Yeah, so I thought I'd approach this to give you a little bit of information about each one, and then you can decide whether you want to attend or table, because they're very different fishes as well.
And
each one, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is interesting. Obviously, we have a mostly UK listenership. To see what these sort of conventions are like stateside, and potentially what they would be like if you, lovely listeners, went there as a creator or whatever. So, so Tony's been pounding the pavement and doing the hard work. No, he's just been having fun, and he's going to tell us what it's like.
Exactly. Yeah. I always been such hard work researching for the pod.
Yeah. This wasn't a field trip paid for by the ACP. No, we don't.
Coffers don't go that deep.
No. We can't afford a bloody multi-pack of crisps.
Bottle of milk. You're right though, man. It was Baltimore first, so I had planned to do just Baltimore actually, and it's. Al Henderson was telling me you got to do it. It's a great OA original art con. You know, it's real old school. So I thought I'd do that.
Al had been there as like.
Yeah, Al went there a few years ago. Yeah, okay. So he was saying, oh, it's a really good one. So I thought that's all right. So I always like to find new places, go to new places, you know. Yeah. So I came to Baltimore, and literally just after I booked it, Sam from NoBrow said, oh, I could really. You're not going to SPX because I could really do with a hand. And I thought, oh, that's funny because it's the same weekend as Baltimore, which is, to be fair, is a bit of a pain for a lot of people. I've heard from a few people saying, why is it both the same weekend? And they're only half an hour apart.
If only stuff like that happened in the UK. Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they're only half an hour apart in a cab sort of thing. So I thought,
that's all right.
Oh, right. So Baltimore is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but SPX is Saturday, Sunday. So you know as well as I do, man, it's got to be an absolutely massive con for you to not do everything in a day.
Yeah.
You know, unless there's some event at that con you want to do. So I met up with my two convention buddies, Cliff and Matt Strott, Cliff Cumber and Matt Strott, who have been a fucking dream. I've been laughing all the time. You know what Cliff's like. And Strott is great company, man. So we did Baltimore, and I got to tell you, I think it's probably just about my favourite American con that I've done so far.
That's interesting. You've seen a few. I mean, before we get stuck into Baltimore, what are some of the other ones you've done apart from New York Comic Con, because that's a different kettle of fish? But you've done some.
New York Comic Con I've done. I did the NCS one in Huntington Beach. I've done a few hotel cons in New York as well, and I did this very small event in Boston about 10, 12 years ago as well. So it's not I've not done masses over here, but I've done a few. And what the thing about Baltimore is these two events that I've done are very different. For those wanting to attend, Baltimore is much more old school comics, with an interesting small press area as well, which I've picked up loads of stuff, which I'll probably talk about in the upcoming weeks. But so first off, when you get to Baltimore, we walked in and all the volunteers, I guess, were like super chatty, you know. Some dude was talking to me about old EC comics, and I'd only met him like 2 minutes. I'd only asked him where the end of the line was, and ended up getting in this massive conversation with him, you know. And he was saying, "Oh, you can go in the line, but it's quite short at the moment. You might as well go and get a bite to eat. This is a great diner down the road, and you get all that off them. You know, it's nice."
Okay.
And we kind of knew the people on the front door by the end of it. You know, Cliff and Matt are very chatty, you know. So we got chatting to these people, which I think is really nice, having that sort of. SPX has been similar in different ways, and then when I paid for a VIP for Baltimore, which is not super expensive. It's not much more than a normal ticket, but it gets you in half an hour early, and I got to basically grab hold of a few creators who I was desperate to meet without having to queue up, First off was Howard Chakyen, who, a massive Chakyen fan. And I'd sort of spoken to him very briefly on occasions before, but never had a chance to talk to him. And so I thought, right, I'm going to use this time. And he was there. He was at his table sort of setting up. So I bought some art from him, which was very reasonable, to be fair. I posted that in the Slack. Probably people have seen.
Yeah.
And then we ended up chatting. And we ended up chatting for about 20 minutes about Shakespeare. He's like very well read, Chakyen.
Yeah.
And we had like this long conversation about St. Crispin's Day speech and who was our favourite Richard III. And it was just marvellous. He was like, I was sort of conscious of people standing behind me, so I shook his hand in order to do that. Oh, mate, it's been lovely. I'm going to leave you to the rest of the people. And he sort of just held my hand and just kept talking. It's just one of those sort of things. When you meet your heroes and they turn out to be all right, there's a bit of that. Yeah.
That's good. At least he was keeping you as opposed to you keeping him.
Yeah. What a lovely guy. Yeah. For everyone who was walking past, he would shout things at them about get me a bagel or something. It's like he's this sort of got this sort of New York thing going on. It's funny, but yeah. And then the one that's probably interesting to you guys is I got to speak to David. I don't know how you say it. Pepose. Who's the? Yeah, who's the?
I don't. But
yeah, I think so. It sounds that's probably about right. Who's the new Punisher writer?
Yes.
He got a bit off me. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I gave him a hard time.
You challenged him on a few things.
I did, but in a friendly way. And me and him talked for a good 20 minutes. And he was very chatty. He talked a lot about. He said he didn't know what was happening. He had nothing to do with the previous Punisher series. I'm not certain whether it had nothing to do with me because I was giving him a bit of a hard time.
Right, okay. He's not holding his hands up saying, look, mate, I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to get that a lot. Maybe that's something he's already prepared or he's heard.
The line was dudes who look like us, man, with a bag full of back issues to get signed. It was that sort of stamp of a, not unlike... More female representation, but a bit more like a comic mark Q, almost the people at
Gotcha.
This gone.
Yeah.
He was showing me a load of the new pages. Sorry, mate, my head switched to these. What's the name of the dude?
David Wachter.
Dave Wachter, yeah. So he was showing me a load of Dave
artist.
Wachter's pages that had just come in. He was showing me that.
Nice.
Sort of thing. And he was saying, I said to him, the thing, I think you said it, V, when we had a big chat about it. You said the most important thing is he kills people. And I said, right, tell me he kills people. And he goes, oh, yeah. No, don't worry about that. He definitely kills people. And then he showed me a load of new art that had come in of people having been shot in the head.
Great.
Just to prove it.
That's a box ticked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I did have some concerns when he was like, the picture of him, he's holding like laser guns or something. It's like, oh, mate, don't go like stun guns and shit.
Yeah, he said we had to go that way because it's, he's an ex-SHIELD agent and stuff. The bullet. The other interesting thing is, I think this has come out in the preview material, but he shoots you. But if you don't die, there's also a tracer in each bullet, so he can track you down and then kill you.
Okay,
so I think that's
okay.
Yeah.
I like that idea. That's a really good idea. Yeah. It's like, if you get away, well, that's right. I'll get you later.
Yeah, I like that. You're forever FUCK, don't you?
Yeah.
But really good. Jury's still a bit out for me on that, I have to say. I'm going to wait and see what the proof's in the pudding around that one.
Was that based on what you've seen or what after you spoke to the writer?
After I spoke to him, I still think I want to see. And I told him we were going to have a chat about it when it comes out.
Yeah.
And he says, well, let me know and I'll have a listen. So that'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all sort of said we're going to give it a fair shake and see how we'll see how it goes.
I mean, he came from like indie comics anyway. And I think recommended, oh god, I've forgotten the name of it now. I kept mentioning it a couple of years ago. The crime comedy action story about the Shotgun Wedding, I believe it was.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, I think he was the writer of that.
Yes, I remember that one. You really liked that one, didn't you?
Yeah. And he's written some fantastic indie comics.
I enjoyed his Savage Avengers, which obviously had Punisher 2099 in. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe that's why he's got it.
Interesting, yeah.
So high hopes for the comic,
Yeah.
But we've just the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It looks good, but let's see.
Yeah.
The bitter old comic fans that we are. Yeah. Random threats to comic writers. You better be good, my son, or I'll be giving. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
I'll let you know on my blog.
See you on Twitter, son. So and Strotty said, I've got to see Don Rosa, the Donald Duck guy. And we said, oh, well, there's not much of a queue. Why don't you join the queue? But the thing is with Don Rosa, he's on those. You see this occasionally. Don McGregor did it for a while as well. They put a chair in front of the table, so
okay.
So you're going to get FaceTime. It's not like you're standing there and he throws the comic back at you whilst talking to his mate or something. He sits here and he has a chat too. So the Strotty queued up, and he was a while. So me and Cliff were sort of wandering the aisles, and every so often we come past Strotty and wave at him from a distance. It's a bit like that, but that was good.
I'd imagine things like that you get like 20, 30 minutes start of the day, and at the end of the day, it's like 5 minutes, quick, bang them out. Because to get through all these people. Yeah,
it's like getting a book sketched in at the start of the day. You're going to get more of a detailed sketch than you are at the end of the day. Mike, so the whole event, for those who, I don't know if they do this every year there, but they themed the whole event around First Comics. So you had, so I was a pig in shit, man.
You're loving that.
Yeah. You had Mike Grell, Steve Rude, Howard Chaykin, Hempel. You had a lot of people, but you also had Mike Gold there. Now, Mike Gold was the sort of editor who kind of was a bit of the brainchild of First Comics, partly. And he was there, and he's sort of walking stick, quite an old dude, bit deaf sort of thing, but managed to have a chat with him. I'll tell you how I met Steve Conley. Was there, previous guest. Steve was there. So we had a good chat with Steve. And man, he is killing it there. They've given him like a corner table, so he had loads of space. And I didn't realize this, but previously he'd done the cover to the convention booklet. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's almost like, I know he's moved, but it's almost like his home convention. I think he's friends with the people who run it or something. So, and he was funny, man. He was just, as soon as we walked over, you see him going, right, I'm going for these boys. They're getting some. It was a bit like that. It was good lark. Then Ted Sikora, who I did an interview with at Heroes, and I always pop by Ted's table, and he was great, man. Ted's got it going on. He knows. He's got a little comic universe. He works proper hard on it. Yeah, really good. Bloom. I know I've mentioned that a few times. Go find yourself a copy of Bloom on Comixology, or if you're in America, buy a copy. Wendy Peeney was there. Who did Elf Quest. Good to see her. Not dressed as Red Sonja this time, which is a shame.
Elf Quest, which is a bit of a classic.
Yeah, God,
that's
man. V, have you read Elf Quest?
No,
I think
no.
Like
it was one of those ones back in the day. Like we always
used to see it all the time.
Yeah, it's Wizard magazine and stuff like that. It was always about. But I never read it myself. But now I'm probably more of a reader that would get more out of it now.
Yeah, I think you would, man. I think you dig it. Yeah. They're lovely as well. She's lovely. And this one makes me laugh. This is nothing to do with any advice to any attending, but it just makes me laugh about Cliff, and it still haunts him. Do you ever say something and later on you think, why did I say that?
Always.
Yeah, I do it every day.
Like a daily occurrence.
I'm terrible for it,
Yeah.
But I'm chatting to Garth Ennis there, and we're having a chat. And he's talking about how much he enjoys doing the Mega City Book Club. He says he really enjoys going on there with Eamon, and over walks Cliff, right? Because Cliff's a big lump, and he sort of strides over, and he goes, "I like it." Garth's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and he goes, "All right, Garth, like your shirt."
Oh fuck!
And to be fair, Garth looks over at him and goes, "I actually bought this in Hawaii." And we go, that's all right then, we forgive you. And he was a chuckle. It was really funny. But later in the day, we're having a bite to eat later, and Cliff goes, why did I say that? Just out of the blue, just playing on his mind. He goes, why did I say that thing about the shirt? It's just funny. So of course, as soon as I met Falp yesterday, I'm saying, go and give him shit about saying that about the shirt. And he comes back, he said, you told Falp. It's the first thing he said to me when he saw me. Yeah.
In many ways, Cliff is a slow learner. in some aspects when it comes to ET. I got to say.
Well, you know, it's like with us, man. It's just constant. It's like when we're together.
Ribbing each other.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's a convention that's very much for OG fans of comics, but there's also a very substantial small press area. Now, the small press there is different from the small press you would see at SPX. It's not that sort of indie auto buyer self-inspection, but there's a lot of people who are creating their little horror comics or their superhero comics and stuff like that. If I would say I would say it's the place where Vanguard would do well.
Yeah, it kind of sounds to me there that, from what you're saying, this I've not even heard about the second one yet, but this seems like my cup of tea.
Yeah, man, and everyone there is like on their feet chatting. There's the odd hard sell, I was with Strotty and we went to the Source Point press stand. Or we in fact, to be fair to us, we walked past it, and the dude did the whole, oh, excuse me, he's out over the table, putting a comic in our hands and all sort of thing. Look, I know, man, I know how hard it can be at con. And I said, oh, look, you just did that, hand the comic to him to get him to buy it thing, didn't you? And the dude went, yeah, all right, I did. Yeah, all right, fair enough. So I had a chat with him. I didn't buy anything off them, and then he looked a bit disappointed.
What was their table set up like? Because they are an indie publisher that we've mentioned a few times on the show.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? And I think we've all looked at stuff they've put on Comixology, because you don't really see it on the shelf in comic shops. Fairly pro. Like, there's a lot of sort of banners, and there's a lot of big banners and stuff like that there. That you don't see at SPX. There's a lot of elaborate table setups that you would likely see maybe at Thought Bubble. The ones that really annoy you because they're too high and getting you way.
Yeah, they build up all the fucking things.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Ted Sikora I was chatting to, I said, mate, how do you do this on your own? He said, look at this. He says, and he's got like this sort of, it's not blocking anyone's view, but it's very high,
Yeah.
And he says, takes me ages to set this up. Yeah, you think, oh, okay. But there's a lot of shelving units on tables and display things and stuff like that, I don't mind that so much. It's a feast for the eye when you walk in, You can, the American Mythology, who are the guys who did the Dinosaur Cyborg comic we talked about last week, they were lovely. Went and had a big chat with them. And they said, "Oh, thanks for giving it a shout on the pod," and they gave me a couple of extra comics. And that was a similar sort of setup to Source Point Press. Really nice dude, and he's got a Friday Night comic and stuff like that. So I was looking at all them. I've got them here actually. Got them in my bag. Let me quickly drag them out while I'm talking to you. I brought some to read.
Yeah. So just again, which publisher was that?
So that's American Mythology. So I got Rawhead Reborn. Rawhead Rex.
Rawhead Rex.
Yeah.
They've done a comic about that. Blighted Dawn Crossverse. That looks good. And they've done a Willy's Wonderland book as well.
Wow, nice one.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Perhaps more on that soon.
So that's the lovely Madeline Holly Rosen as well.
Yeah, she said hello. I sent a picture of her waving at you, Dan, because she's a fan of yours.
Yeah. Goes both ways.
Yeah, she was nice. We talked about fencing again. That was cool.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a nice one. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to go on a Friday, it wasn't super packed. You could speak to everyone, even like Walt Simonson and Wheezy. If you waited 5 minutes, you get to chat to them.
It seems amazing you can walk up and speak to these people. For me, like they're kind of like legendary kind of folk heroes in my mind.
It is for us who were reading these comics and never thought we'd get a chance to ever meet our heroes. Our comic heroes. You can do, and it's amazing, man. Yeah, I was Al Henderson was texting me, and I said, "Oh man, I'm pinching myself at this thing."
Yeah.
Massive. I'm a massive First Comics fan.
Yeah.
And all these people were there who created my childhood.
Amazing.
It's lovely. Yeah. So I'd say if you've got a comic that's more sort of superhero or horror based, I would say Baltimore would be a good place to do the small press area. Everyone was super friendly. I think from what Cliff's saying, Saturday and Sunday, the queue is round the block. But the Friday, if you wanted, as a punter, you wanted to go, I'd say do it on the Friday.
That's a good shout.
Yeah,
okay.
Very good. Yeah. And then any other questions about that one, guys, or shall I just move on to SPX?
So from the kind of roundup, that's more of the kind of like your comic mart backpack wearing kind of.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys in the queue with like trolleys with back issues for signing.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
I couldn't carry one of those trolleys. I'm not casting aspersions on anyone who does it, but
I'm not that organised either, man.
What's the turnout like for comic book stores at like American cons like that?
Yeah, you tend to find at the heart of a lot of these, the American like Heroes Con that I went to in North Carolina, that a lot of these cons have, as part of the organisational team, the people who run the local comic shop.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
Which is good, I think. I mean, Heroes in Charlotte is totally run by the local comic shop. I think it's their baby.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't remember who.
But you see a few different stores have stands and stuff.
Oh man, Baltimore was totally OA, loads of OA stalls, and
wow,
absolutely loads of back issues. Yeah, it's really good for that. Yeah,
awesome. Of course, they've got the classic dollar bins over there, haven't they?
Yeah, and really good stuff. I mean, it's stuff that would probably be, a tenner in a comic shop is, $3 in a bin here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The man's just turned up with a Hoover, so just to let you know if he starts hoovering.
That isn't his order, food order, or a drinks order. He's just in the lobby.
I haven't ordered a Hummer. I don't know what that is.
So Baltimore, how many Esmond thumbs up do we get?
Yeah, definitely 5 out of 5 for that one for me.
Oh, yeah, brilliant. Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I Ubered it over to Baltimore. Ubered it. Yeah, look at me. Over to a place called Bethesda in Rockville, Maryland. How cool is that? I don't say Maryland right. About 45 people have told me that, but I refuse to give in. And so helped Sam on the NoBrow table, which was really fun. And we got Tyrrell Waiters, who's done Vern, Custodian of the Universe, is the new NoBrow book he's done, and he's a spot on geezer, man. Lovely. I mean, you've met Sam, haven't you? Sam's great.
Yeah.
And Tyrell, pardon me, I keep saying Tyrrell and he keeps laughing at me, but Tyrell, he was a workhorse, man. So we had him signing at the table. We did a panel, and then he's just been signing and sketching in each book for free. And we've got sort of a 3-table stretch here, and I think in the first day we sold about 3/4 of our books, to such a point where we're sort of spreading the books out before we left yesterday, thinking how we can make the table look busy, So SPX is surprisingly for me a great selling convention, but it's very much more. It's like more indie, more small press than Thought Bubble, but there's a similar-ish vibe. It's more that sort of end of indie small press that we see. A little bit more zine-y, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like a comic and zine fair sort of maxed up.
It is. So it's a comic and zine fair, but they also are aware of the greats, so it tends to be the greats from that end of the world. So Steve Lafler, who did Dog Boy, etc., Buckhouse, who's literally part of the gang now, he came out with this, was telling us stories last night about playing in a band with Mary Fleener, spending time with Robert Crumb, all this sort of thing. And we're like, oh my God, these are the best stories ever over like copious pints of lager. I remember at one point somebody accidentally gave him my drink, which is ginger ale, and he goes, and you can see in his face, who drinks this? I said, oh, that's mine, Steve. But yeah, and I'm hopefully if I get time today, it's been really busy. I get time today. We could do a little interview with him, but he's up for coming on. And this dude has been making comics since the late 70s. He is the epitome of the indie comic creator. He says, I just love comics.
Well, that's the sort of person we want to talk to.
Yeah, he'd be lovely, man. And the stories, wow. Yeah. So I was doing that, Sam and Tyrell at the table, and then over just across the aisle from us almost, and a bit further up, is the strangers table with Eddie and Falpy. Falpy's as usual, wandering around. He was at the table for, I think, 5.5 minutes at one point when it opened, and then he just decided to wander around winding me up, taking pictures of me from a distance. Cliff turned up, so he's winding Cliff up. You know what he's like, Falpy, he's mischievous. But his comics going down a storm as well, man. I mean, the strangers table said they're almost sold out.
Oh, wow, nice one.
Yeah, so that's really good. It's a lot of it's a younger crowd. There's I don't know how you put it, more politically motivated, I suppose.
Okay.
It's not a bad thing. The a real wide, there's a Fantagraphics table, for example, there's a Drawn and Quarterly table, that sort of crowd, and then a lot of people who would love to be published by them, and then a lot of people who are just doing zines and stuff for themselves. We're next to Atomic Books, so we've got like a little stretch, but the table at the end of it is Atomic Books, which is an indie comics shop in Baltimore, and they are the absolute nicest people at this convention, I guarantee you. So there's a man and a woman there, and every 5 minutes they're saying, Tony, I've got a spare drink here. Do you want one? Or I've got some bag with packets of crisps here. So me and Sam, I think all we ate was cheesy crisps for about 8 hours yesterday that was supplied to us by the lady on the side. Oh,
that sounds like a convention diet.
Yeah. But I reckon, I haven't been to it, but I can thoroughly recommend that shop. And it's very much sort of indie, small press, underground DIY store. A bit like, I'm going to say, without having been there, a bit like Crower Funding, the Leal shop. And they've been in business for, I think, well over a decade. And they're saying, no, this is the sort of stuff they're doing. So, Silver Sprocket, Strangers, Bubbles, that sort of crowd, they take all that in. But I would hazard a guess, I'm not asking this, but if you contacted them and you were in that sort of crowd, they'd probably consider taking your book on. Really nice people, absolutely lovely people. In fact, to such a point where I said, have you got any T-shirts? Because they have these T-shirts to wear. And they said, oh, we'll bring you one in tomorrow. So I'm hoping they got me a T-shirt today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, how lovely is that? Yeah. Durf was there. Got to speak to Durf. Said hi because he remembers the podcast.
Yeah, he's an absolute dude.
Nice.
He said hi to Tom Stewart from Tom's interview that he did a while back as well. I spent $100 buying a piece of OA from him. But that's more than worth it, man. For that. Have a look, if you're on the Slack, have a look. I posted it this morning.
Oh, okay, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, and really nice. A bit quiet, but friendly.
Did he give any kind of hints of what he's working on now?
He said he didn't really, but he said to me he's not doing many more conventions because he's still working on new stuff and he hasn't had anything out for a while.
Right, okay.
So he says, I might dip out of conventions for a bit while I finish stuff off. Yeah. I haven't spoke to him yet, but Eddie Campbell's here. From Hell, etc. Yep. Alec Bacchus, Eddie Campbell, who's got like really long white hair now. He's pretty striking. So I want to get over and speak to him. He was away from his table when I went to it yesterday, because you know what it's like when you're running a table. You think, I just got to nip over there for 2 minutes, and he was gone. But Cliff had a chat with him. Had the best photograph. I'll get Cliff to post it on the Slack. It's the funniest photograph with sort of Eddie Campbell leaning on his shoulder. It's just brilliant. Yeah, just apparently Cliff was saying he was brilliant. Yeah, lovely to chat to. I think he lives in Chicago now. He's over living here now. So that was cool. Yeah, but I think I hope people understand what I mean by this, but that sort of indie, more the sort of...
So more the thought bubble kind of East London.
A little bit, yeah, but not so much. I've done a horror comic about a vampire versus a werewolf, or, this is my new superhero, or stuff like that. It's more the sort of introspective, weird, stuff.
Kind of more arty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
So even though, like, some people might be like, oh, 2 conventions on the same weekend, that's really frustrating. But they're 2 very different flavors of convention.
Yes.
They're not. It doesn't sound like they're truly. They're not competing with each other in terms of content, are they?
No, they're not. There's no way that one would be nicking guests off the other. There's a couple of cases of people who, me and Cliff and Strotty were saying, I'm surprised they're at Baltimore. I think I would have thought SPX was more their taste.
Yeah.
There's a couple of people at Baltimore. Me and Cliff said don't you fancy doing SPX? And they said, well, we do Baltimore every year, and we've got a crowd. We would consider definitely doing SPX because our comics would suit it. But we've got the people coming back every year at Baltimore.
Yeah.
And you get that thought bubble in places like that, don't you? Where people come back and they'll buy your comic from you in person every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cultivating a following and sort of keeping them loyal is hugely important when it comes to
You're doing it for years and years. Yeah, you want to kind of try and keep that
all
up.
you need is one person to go, oh, you went to that one just down the road. I came all this way to this convention because I thought you were going to be there, and you've kind of lost.
Yeah,
you might be lost.
You haven't you? Yeah. You lose that one comic in a series, you're out, aren't you? Yeah. So I've still got a day more left of SPX. I think we'll probably sell out of pretty much nearly everything by the end of the day. So me and Sam were saying if we sell out by 3 o'clock, we're in the bar. We'll be in the bar, everyone. And we went out for a meal last night. Me, Sam, Eddie, Falp, Cliff, and Steve Lafler. You laugh at this. Cliff booked a restaurant that was like, we sat down in this restaurant and we were looking and said, the steak's £150. Why are we in this super posh restaurant? We were wearing shorts and comic t-shirts, Yeah. And we said, so we just all strolled out and then found this Japanese restaurant, and it was a proper laugh. Yeah, really funny.
150 quid for a fucking steak.
Oh, mate, at least on that menu. Yeah. Cliff's going, I didn't realise it was so expensive. Run. It's like that. So we legged it out. Yeah. So it's good.
So it's been it's a fascinating weekend of like two different sort of sides of comics and flavours of comics.
Yeah, and from an American point of view as well, people coming over and chatting, and I don't know if you know this, but in the UK to a certain extent, but in America, librarians are a force to be reckoned with, because they're very much in the comic scene over here. They are a bit in the UK as well, but over here it's like we've probably had 5 or 6 librarians come over to the table and going, right, we want to stock your book, and Sam's like, this is great news.
Yeah, they can sort of make or break a book in as much as they can bring a lot of.
Yeah. And they're very much in the aisles of Thought Bubble of SPX here. They're very much here for that, so that's good as well.
They do a lot more sort of selling of libraries, if you know what I mean. Like that the individuals do. Like it's becoming more of a thing, with social media presence and stuff. There are people saying, "I work at a local library. Come and bring your kids and read books and things like that." Whereas that's not a thing in the UK. Not that I've experienced.
Not that I've experienced
either. No.
If you're one of these people, please tell us, and shout about it. But
a library, like my local library, is just full of rolls and butter who sit there reading magazines, shouting things into the air.
Rolls and butter.
Yeah.
What's that short for?
Nutter.
Oh, right, okay.
But
that one was a stretch even for us.
Yeah. There was one where I used to live. Like they had a new build library there, and that was great because I used to order in books, and they'd turn up like in a week. So rather than just keep buying stuff, so I'm going to read once, just go there. But I know what you mean. They're not really pushed too much in the UK.
Yeah, but you look at TCAF. I know that's Canada, but TCAF is one of their biggest conventions in a massive library. And it's kind of run by the library almost. So mate, it's been. I've still got a day yet, and I'm literally aching already.
Well, I mean, us and the listeners can hear it in your voice that you've been talking non-stop.
Yeah, I'm a bit croaky today. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
No,
you've got nothing to apologise for. Having fun. So, what? I mean, you're in the thick of it as we speak now. But obviously, Baltimore, you had a day there, didn't you? Was it one day? How many
Just
days?
one day.
Just one day.
Yeah.
So, and we say this about some of the bigger conventions. Do you think is Baltimore 3? It's a 3-day con, isn't it? Isn't it a Friday? Is it? A Friday?
It is. Yeah. I mean, there's very few things that are 3-day cons to me, unless they hold events throughout it.
Yeah.
So it might be that,
even though it's got 5 out of 5, is it something that necessarily should be a 3-day convention? I mean, obviously, if you're selling a comic, the extra day to sell more books is always good. But like for a punter or a visitor who might have bought a 3-day ticket, do you think a 3-day ticket is?
No, you'll have done it. You'll have done it at the most in a day and a half. I think the only thing with it is they've got announcements to say, oh, next up is the first comics panel. And like, Steve, I can't remember who it was. Was it Steve Rude or Grell? Someone was basically saying at their table, I've got a panel. Everyone come along. I've got a panel. Everyone come along. So I think the panels are quite a big thing there,
right.
Which is a good thing. I think how many panels have we seen where there's like one person in the audience? They're not well attended in the UK, are they? Generally,
and that's just most of
the ones we've run. Yeah.
I've been that one person.
You're afraid to leave, aren't you?
Yeah. It's like this creator's mental well-being is resting on me being here. I can't fucking walk out.
It sounds so brutal when you say it, Dan. I don't know.
It does, yeah. You're a cruel man, Butcher.
I stay. I don't walk out.
Yeah.
Just with a look of disdain on his face.
Yeah.
Where did your failure bring you? Back to me.
Yeah. So,
Oh, and big shout out to Steve Laffler because he's a listener. He says the good thing about you guys is you sound like you're having fun. I went, here we are, Steve. Yeah. Nice one, man. Yeah, that's good.
What I love about that, Tony, is that was more effort you put into an accent than anything you did as Green Arrow.
Yeah.
I know, that was terrible. Only because I've had him. I was sat next to him at the meal and he was talking to me, so I've still got his voice in my head. It's it's terrible. Although more news on that soon.
Oh yes. So in terms of sort of creators, our lovely listeners who are creators that may be in the area, are these both recommendations based on the sort of content that they produce? What would you suggest in terms of if people say, I'm not sure which show to pick? Do you think it's fairly obvious from what you've said, or? I
think so. Look at what you're doing in a comic. Like, for example, the easy one is you, Dan. I think Baltimore is much more up your street, much more your people. I'd say, for example, Dirty Basement, what we do is much more SPX.
Got ya.
I think so. Tony Osmond, I would put more at Baltimore, really, to be fair. It's got more that sort of adventure vibe about it. It's Baltimore's, it's a weird thing, isn't it? But Baltimore seems to be sort of more male dominated. SPX is more female dominated. I don't know if that says something about the comics or the vibe or the environment or anything.
Or society. No.
Yeah, or just generally wider American society. But I don't know why. I don't know why that's relevant, but it just seems worth mentioning. Yeah.
I think maybe, as you say, Baltimore is more of that sort of back issue crowd as well.
Yeah, big time, man. Yeah, it's a bit like a comic mart where you're waiting for the bloke doing the long box to leave his long box so you can move along one. You know, it's a bit like that. Yeah.
Which of course, you know, across all genders, there's of course we all go to the long boxes and stuff, but predominantly.
Yeah, historically it's been more male dominated. So they're the people. Yeah. I agree, man. Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say.
Yeah. And I think it's a fair thing to say that you're a maniac for getting up at this time of the morning. But we love you very much, and we I hope you're doing okay, and the last day will be okay.
I'll get an hour in now before everyone starts shouting at each other over breakfast and laughing. So that'd be right.
Yeah. And he'll be back in the room proper next week, folks.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
We've got Biggie next week, guys, have we?
We have.
Yeah.
Big guest.
Yeah, but we won't.
Got to start doing my research and reading.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Enough
about that. You have to listen. You have to.
Fingers crossed.
Next week.
Yeah. So, Tony, on the orders of myself and Dr. Butcher.
If you're going to say get yourself to bed, I'm going to feel a bit saucy about you telling me that, my friend.
All right, get those trousers off. And there you have it, folks. Tony off in another time zone. That's about as close to time travel as we get on this show, isn't it? Whenever we talk to someone from the States.
Off in the good old US of A.
Yeah.
I spoke briefly to Matt Strott via some messages, and he basically backs up everything Tony said there. He's having an absolute whale of a time.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a great time, and like, I'd like to experience an American comic convention one day.
Yeah.
You know. Probably just to have the experience of spending a day rooting through back issue bins, etc.
Yeah.
But if you were there,
chatting.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. If you were there, if you were one of the people that were there, we hope you had a fantastic time. Picked up some great comics, whether it be at Baltimore, SPX. The thing that fascinated me was I did not realise that they were so close together in terms of distance.
Yeah, geographically.
So. Really, if you're someone, there are people who like a certain part of comics, and a certain genre or a certain type of comic, and then there's people who like another. It's all very different. But if you're someone that just likes a bit of everything, you like your superheroes and you like your slice of life, and you like all kinds of things. That this weekend must have been just if you were there, you could have gone to both and just been happy as Larry. It's just
There's times when you're a punter, you can pretty much, depending on the con, get it done in one day. So
Yeah.
doing 2 in a weekend is very achievable.
Yeah. So, if you were there, let us know what you think, and if you
Yeah, how you got on?
if you saw Roaming Tony or Cliff Cumber or any ACP community.
He was man in the desk or table.
Yep. Good old NoBrow. I've spotted a couple of books on NoBrow. I wouldn't mind picking up actually.
So that, from what Tony was saying, it looks like we're going to be selling out, which is fantastic.
Which is
It's
always
always a
good.
hard one to kind of pitch, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
how much stock should we bring over? Because you got, well, I presume you get it all shipped over. You don't take it as bloody carry on, do you?
Yeah, it's completely. It's a different ball game, isn't it? Yeah, it's not carry on. And then you've got to be concerned about UPS tracking or whatever it is. You know, I wouldn't know where to start. I know a lot of our listeners and friends of the show have experienced that, even with just the UK having to sort of post if they've got a lot of hardback books, but they don't necessarily drive. They've had to, you know, there's lots of sort of organisational hurdles.
I think that's gone wrong as well.
Yeah, you
Like
could
when it's not turned up.
Yeah, you turn up at a con and your books aren't there until the next day. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of these little wrinkles can sometimes throw you for a loop, but as long as at the end of it you've had a good time and you've enjoyed yourself, that's the main thing. God, I'm saying like a Hallmark card, don't I?
I guess you just got to kind of like react accordingly and trying to just, I don't know, offer up commissions or something if you're an artist, or just try and adapt and maybe take voucher sales or something. It's like you pay for it and you get a book with a sketch in it or something, just do something extra. Nightmare scenario.
I mean, you know, at the very least, have a few little things that you can take with you, so you've got something on your table, and then if it's a few day event, then you can, you know, people will come back to the table.
We've actually had the opposite though, when the stocks turned up but the table owners haven't, which is always funny.
Yeah. But you know, it's tabling at a convention is always an interesting one. I haven't done it for a couple of years now. I don't know when in the future I'll be doing it. But Tony certainly brought up Vanguard a couple of times during that chat, and it sort of got me to sort of thinking about your book and obviously the epic task it's been of putting this all together. And we've said like the end is in sight, but there's still plenty of work to do. And you've said on this show that the latest issue, and there's lots going on in it, but this one's been a hard graft, this particular issue, hasn't it?
It's been rough. It's like I started updating this in February. We're now September. I'm still kind of doing it. It's 40 odd pages long. It's just, I'm finding I don't like the having to do 2 pages a week schedule, because sometimes you get more done, sometimes you get less. I think I'd rather now just go for like doing completed issues as standalones. Do you know what I mean? Like once this long form narrative's done, I'll do one and done's, like with Viper, stuff like that. Is
this something, this 2 sort of pages a week kind of format and all the work that goes into it, how has that changed for you working on it? Because, I mean, obviously you're saying it's a slog, and we like to give our listeners sort of like behind the scenes. It's not. We all love making comics. Dan loves making Vanguard because he's continuing to make it, and he loves his characters. But it is hard work, and sometimes it's harder than others.
Yeah.
But certainly, have you stuck to the same, like you were saying, 2 pages a week? Have you stuck? Is that a schedule that you've had since day one?
I've tried to. I mean, there's variations depending on kind of what's going on in RL, in real life.
Yeah.
Plus, go on. Well, I was going to say, what's weird is like when I was doing more commuting for the 5 days a week, I was like had an hour on the end of each day where I was like solidly drawing. But now I only do 2 days a week in the office. So kind of I've had to kind of fuck around with the timetable. You think, well, you got more hours at home. Surely it's easier. And to be honest, I found it's not. It's trickier.
Yeah, because I guess the travel gives you that focused moment of like, well, you know, rather than
you got to do this.
Yeah,
like
you know, especially getting into that routine of doing it. It's almost a shock to then go from that to doing something else, isn't it? But I think also your style, obviously from the first page to now, there is, you know, the level of draftsmanship, or the amount of detail, or the tricks and the styles that you put in, and we've said about this, there must be so many tricks or shortcuts that you've discovered in the year since issue 1 that have made certain things easier. But have you found on the other side of the coin that because those things are easier, you're adding more in terms of detail or in terms of reference or in terms of other things? Is it like one thing isn't as difficult anymore, but you're still challenging yourself in another way?
Well, I come and watch it. There's an issue where I basically, for time, I like have a shadow layer, which is masked, and a highlights layer, which is masked. At one point, I thought I want more variation in the shadow, so I did a second layer of shadows. So it took more draftsmanship to kind of punch that through. I found with the digital stuff, I can go back and say I've got like someone shot in profile, and I thought, well, I quite like the angle, but it's going to be like a different character, or they're going to have a different expression, and I can rework that. And to be fair, I don't think really many people notice, because sometimes it'd be a close-up, other times it'd be like a lot further out. Using that digitally is really handy, because you just kind of jump in, pull artwork out, and it's like, well, I'll amend that and change it, and then stick it back in. I mean, if it's not like a massive action piece and it's just talking heads,
I
don't think it really matters too much. But there's, when you get more of the effects heavy stuff, it moves away from drawing stuff, and I'm fucking around in Photoshop trying to add stuff and
is that for you? Is that for you the slog? Because
there's a slog. Yeah, the drawing's an absolute joy. It's an absolute pleasure. But when you've got so much stuff going on, and you're trying to work it to make it get a consistency over the pages. And for some reason, this issue, some of the colors have gone out, and some of the skin tones are a lot redder than they should be. So when this issue's done, I'm going to have to go back to the previous one, grab the right color palette, and make sure the colors are consistent throughout, which is fucking annoying.
God, I bet. But I mean, this latest issue as well. You got your foot on the floor, haven't you? Really, with lots of action and powers, and
there's loads of different things, loads of different stuff happening. Like in the most recent one, the whole good guys kind of base HQ collapses in on self, and try googling that to try and like an underground establishment or building collapsing inwards, and what that would look like from above. So I can't find anything, so I had to kind of just imagine it imploding in and just falling down, and trying to do that. But there's kind of the end of this one's there's a lot of characters who you're dead or you think are dead, so it's kind of springing off to the finale from this.
Wow. So and this issue is how many pages? The one that's currently going out?
I think I'm working on 40 at the moment, so it's probably going to get about 44, 45.
Okay. And what was just released? Which page was it that was just released?
I think it was 39 or 40.
I'm putting you on the spot a lot here, Dan. Sorry.
That's all right. No worries, man.
Yeah.
No worries.
So after this, it is the finale? Pretty
much, yeah. Like, there's going to be one issue. The next issue is kind of going to be a bit of quiet before the storm, and then the last one, Jesus Christ, well, I've kind of got planned already on that, like in the various Word doc or Google Docs I got. That's going to be pretty hectic.
God.
It's only 50% of it's plotted, but I kind of know what's happening, but I need to kind of just expand on points.
Yeah.
If I can get that going by sort of the mid to end of next year, because the next one should be shorter. I'll give myself a pat on the back, because I was hoping to get all this done in 2 years, and we're moving up to year 1 now. So there's no way to get it done.
What is time? Yeah, and obviously, like as you say, real life, just everything else in general. And
other projects on the go as well. So it's kind of not just doing Vanguard. Obviously got the DUI, I've got some other stuff in the works for other people.
But that's also something that you've been doing more and more recently, isn't it? Sort of like stretching your legs and getting out and doing a bit more. Is that like when you stepped away from Vanguard? Is it almost in some ways preparing for the next stage in a few years? Or
I think so. Yeah, like testing out what kind of works for me and don't, because I've developed this kind of the house look, as it were, for working on Vanguard, and I've got to essentially stick with it. I think if I went on a complete like 90-degree like offshoot on the artwork and suddenly it was black and white, very scratchy, people would be like, well, what the hell is this? Like, I'm trying to keep a tonal consistency in regard to that. But then when we've done, like, we've got the DUI, our strip we've done a DUI, that's completely different.
The style you've got for that, I love to see like a one-shot book just of that, just that kind of thing. It was
I've got something in the work for kind of Halloween with a couple other chaps. So when we get that gets a bit more solid, I'll talk about it on here.
Yeah, Halloween, which isn't too far away.
God, no. I did drop a message in our little group saying, look, we've got Halloween coming up. We've got time to sort out a good episode, which we will do.
Yeah, well, of course we will. We're here to we're just here to have a laugh and talk about some amazing
more favourite times of the year, isn't it?
Yes, and just on a side note, it really pisses me off when you walk into a supermarket or superstore, as you call it internationally, and it's like, oh, they've already put the Christmas stuff out. Where's the fucking Halloween stuff?
Yeah, mate, come on. Yeah.
It's don't get me started, girlfriend. Don't get me started.
I was thinking, like, have you ever considered going back to Murder Road? Because I feel like there's more in that story, definitely.
I've got a sort of a document, sort of, and plots and ideas for like a sequel for that.
Oh, nice one.
And
because like the ending to Murder Road is absolutely bleak.
I'm the happy-go-lucky one as well, folks. Just think about that. Well, it's bleak in that sort of, hopefully in that traditional slasher kind of way.
Yeah, but like it's kind of like the I forget the names of it, so it's been a little while, but like she basically signs herself away for an eternity of kind of torment and spending it with the driver. And
when I've plotted stuff, as well as like just trying to think of things that were cool, and I haven't overthought it when it comes to this one, because I've almost looked at it like, well, that film came out in that period and the sequel comes out in this period, and you know how you get those sort of I'm thinking the sequel that you picked up in VHS from your local video rental store, and sometimes it's glossier around the edges, but it's hollow in certain places, and sometimes
Murder Roads.
Well, I will. I'll send you what the title is.
Okay. Yeah. Murder Road in Space. That's the one they all went to, didn't they?
Yeah. I
can't see that working.
You go to space on your fourth one, don't you? Fourth or fifth?
Your fourth film,
yeah.
That's all aliens and Alien to blame for that, weren't they? Like, oh, look, they've done a horror in space. We should do that now. So but Jason Voorhees doesn't really work like that.
No. Although that's a ridiculously just fun pizza and beer movie. It's I mean, Jason X, I'm fond of, but I'm fond because it's not a great movie and it knows it knows exactly what it is.
Didn't they do a Hellraiser in space? We should save this goal.
Yeah. I tell you what, we'll have to. Yeah, it's the Halloween talk. It's already got us. I'll
tell you what, there's got to be Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday 13th, and Halloween comics adaptations. Surely.
Oh god, there's quite a few. I think we're gonna have to look it up. Perhaps we for this Halloween special this year, we look at like the classic monsters and slashers and stuff within the horror genre. We have just a couple of weeks ago talked about the Universal Dracula from Image, which has just come out. So so stay tuned. Perhaps we'll put a shout out on the Slack and on the social media and stuff, and look for good ones. Obviously, there's like Puppet Master and stuff, all of that.
I mean, all the full moon stuff. Tony would be fucking up to his nuts and guts for that. He loves.
Oh God!
The gingerbread man.
God!
Didn't like that expression.
Jesus Christ!
I used it in the office, and I watched that the other day. Chris Finch says it.
Oh God! It's always a shocker.
Yeah.
But should we give some shout outs, Dan?
Yes. I think you've got some, have you not?
I have. I have another shout out for the Bristol Comic Expo, or Comic Expo Bristol, depending on which way up you look at the poster. Saturday the 7th of October in the Doubletree by Hilton in Bristol. Tickets are on sale now. Adults £10, child of £5, under 12 free with an adult ticket. There's loads of sort of going to be great artists and creators there. For instance, the likes of Alan Davis, Liam Sharp, Rob Williams, Paul Grist, Mike Collins, Shaky Kane. I can't read there. There's quite a small picture on my David Hitchcock. Oh, I love David Hitchcock's work. Lou Stringer and more. So make sure you get down there. There's also going to be a classic UK art exhibition.
Oh, fantastic!
So I'll be there, milling around.
Some of that stuff is like when you see it in the flesh, it's like fucking hell. God. This is just the craftsmanship is just unreal.
It's like when I've been to Lawless and there's like a small room that they use as a little art exhibition kind of space. If you see these sort of things at a convention, please go and see these sort of stuff, because even if you're not like a huge fan of the particular genre or what the comics are, I like my Star Trek and Thunderbirds and all of that good stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of the comics of some of them, but that's just because it's just not my bag. But to see some of these like original pages, like from back in the day, or like just seeing some of the draftsmanship, some of the prints, it's just wonderful, astounding stuff, and it's just an absolute joy. And it always sort of gives you inspiration, and I think to how to sort of draft things, at least for me anyway. So Bristol Expo, check it out. It's going to be a fun time for all the family. God, that was cheesy, wasn't it?
Not guaranteed.
Yeah, Dan, what have you got?
Nothing actually, because I'm on my phone and not in front of my computer. But
yeah, we're going off road, but we will.
Randy Stone has a new Kickstarter out. The creator of Bullet Adventures.
Ah, nice.
I don't have the link to hand, so unfortunately I cannot give any more out on that.
But once again, get in touch with us or look for more info for the drink and draw that's happening.
Yes, this Friday. That should be fun.
This Friday, yeah, it's going to be a good laugh. Drink, draw, just come along and listen. Do neither. Well, the only thing you really got to do is have fun, which is what this show's all about. And as well as comics and indie comics.
Comics are fun.
Oh, comics are fun. Aren't they fun, Dan? Don't we like fun, don't we?
To be fair, I've read some comics that aren't fun, but
yeah.
That not tonight though. Tonight I've got a banger.
We don't talk about comics that are just we don't want to talk about. I certainly don't recommend.
Try if you might.
Yeah, it's called recommendations for a reason. And me and Dan have got a few. We got a couple for you this week. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna top and tail us with speaking of Kickstarters. A Kickstarter that I read recently. It's starting to. I'm not going to spoil too much about the story because the physical copies, etc., they've been printed and it's being fulfilled at the moment. So some of our lovely listeners may actually be receiving this in the post soon, or maybe they've received it.
If you get a physical copy and a digital copy of a Kickstarter comic, I don't know. I always wait for the physical copy to turn up to read it. I never read the digital first.
Yeah.
I want the first experience to be me reading it in a physical.
Yeah, and sometimes I think for us with the context of this show, it's handy because we can read it in the comfort of on our sofa, etc. But then when it comes to a show, we can just bring the PDF up. It's almost like a reference tool, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just nicer reading print comics. It just is. And this is from someone who reads predominantly digital at the moment as well. Well, this Kickstarter I'm going to talk about is written by Nick Bryan, illustrated by Phil Apley, cover inks by Amanda Louis. I hope I got that right. And lettered by DC Hopkins. I probably got it wrong, and apologies, Amanda. This is Stone Cop. I read issue on a Stone. Well, it's kind of like a standalone sort of book, but yet leads to other things. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but the story is this. In the city of Brighton Ridge, Colorado, the rock trolls came down from the mountains to terrorize the population. They tear up the streets, crush vehicles, and rip open homes. The people live in fear, and only one thing can save them. To defeat the Masonic menace, we need Stone Cop. Once a rock troll himself, he's been chiseled down and reprogrammed to become the city's most statuesque law enforcer. And now he faces his greatest test yet, transporting an imprisoned troll across the city to become the first inmate in Stonemax, their new maximum security underground prison. But the mountain monsters are determined to intercept the transfer and punish our hero for betraying them. And
that's great.
It is. I mean, this was awesome fun reading this. This was just a blast. This was just a quick read as well. This was I say quick read. It's 40 pages. Of absolutely just an easy to read roller coaster action book that feels very much in the vein of sort of those action films, you know, the 80s action films that we love so much. I mean, RoboCop springs to mind, but this isn't a RoboCop riff or sort of rip off.
Sounds a bit like a Western kind of, like the lone lawman has to take one of his own.
It's got a little bit of that, but and they don't delve too much into it in terms of this issue, which probably why it feels different from RoboCop is the main character, Officer Stone. Like what he's done there. Who just looks pretty. The trolls, they almost have, these rock trolls, they've almost got to look like classic Ben Grimm, the Thing, sort of like, these sort of. It's almost like blocky panels, but it doesn't. They're almost like layered over sort of muscle underneath. It's one of the designs from Appy that I really like because the rock still looks like it can move. He's designed them in a way that, you can bend the arms, you can do all of that, and you don't have to worry about everything being too specific. Yeah. And Stone himself, as they say, he's been chiseled down. He's a bulky, he's like the muscle cop, if you know what I mean. The way he looks, and the character isn't like
got chiseled abs.
Yeah, you don't see his abs. This isn't a TNA book, Dan. You filthy minx. But because he's got like the American sort of beat cop sort of cap, there were flashes of like that maniac cop look because he sort of wears it sort of low. This isn't a slap. This is almost an all ages 80s blockbuster action film kind of thing, but with a very very simple structure at its core that is a wonderful setup. When I finished it, I thought I want more of this, which is what you want. I was intrigued because I thought it was going to be one and done, and if they don't come back to it for whatever reason, it could be the way it is. I'm not going to say anything too much about the ending.
Kind of left open.
Yeah. There's a certain amount left open to it. But there's Nick loves his sort of play on words as well. Like to begin with, they say he used to be one of them until he was captured, rehabilitated and chiseled down to shape. Stone Cop, pillar of the community, craggy protector, man-shaped scratching post, Masonic hero, and gravelly enforcer. Rock solid arm of the law. There's all of these just leaning into the puns and the cliches. But the story itself, like all of these wonderful over the top stories, the story takes itself seriously. Do you know what I mean? It's everything else around it that's sort of bright, colourful and crazy. Like when they're transporting one of the these captured trolls to a maximum security sort of prison pit kind of thing, and he's tied basically to the back of this truck, and they're driving along, and it's going to get attacked. There's going to go with that sort of scene, and I mean, I laughed when just one of them goes, "Let's rock," when they put their foot down on it. I thought this is perfect for all of those puns. This is just amazing. But Nick does a great sort of sense of building the beginnings of. He's clearly got a lore. Do you know what I mean? For these things, that's Lore. There's a background. He's clearly thought about the way that these creatures work and the types of creatures they are. And I would hasten to add that some of the bad guys, they feel like they're tailor-made for action figures as well, because as well as these big rock trolls, there are smaller rock trolls that roll themselves up into like balls, like boulders. Was it the He-Man figures that? And you remember there was the rock, transforming rock?
When they rock lords.
Yeah. It's almost like these rock trolls, they turn into like boulders, and then the bigger rock trolls throw them. So there's just loads of cool action.
It reminds me of those, that film Big, where like the executives pitching the Transformers into a building. So the robots turn into rocks. So yeah, that's great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Rocks.
Yeah, come on. Every kid loves playing with rocks. But
we don't have to pay like 15 quid for the privilege.
No, you're not. Well, 15 quid. Cool, you're getting your toys cheap these days. But so Nick's story, well plotted, well paced out. The work by Phil Apley, I know he put a lot of work into it. There's some lovely sort of line work. It seems to be sort of watercolor, sort of ink washes type colouring to it, which is a nice thing to do with this. It's a bit different. I think if it was big, bold, bright colours, it would almost be too much. There's a softer texture to it, which really adds to everything that's going on. And so much so that even when, my favourite page is the titular Stone Cop when he appears, and he's standing there, and there's two sort of cops in sort of SWAT gear behind him. It looks like it could be a cover by itself, and even though it's just three figures on a blank background, he still added like a texture, a colour to it, which provides interest without detracting. It's not a gradient. It's not one of those gradients that we see a lot in a lot of independent comics. Apley's like he's trying something different with it, which really works. There was only one page for me which took me a moment to sort of think what's going on in the aforementioned sort of chase scene, which is wonderfully rendered. The artwork also, we spoke about him earlier, but Dave Wachter, who does stunning sort of artwork with watercolours. I can see this inspiration. I presume it would be an inspiration of the artist. But there's a big car pile-up scene, and it's a splash page, rightfully so. When you have like a bit of dialogue, but then when the action scene comes along, it's there. And of course there's cars going everywhere, there's a giant rock troll, there's even a helicopter like in the sky. There's a lot going on this page, and it's impactful. It does sort of come out of nowhere, but there's a little bit of, you can see the trailer. It's hard to, I've got to show it to you at some point, Dan. You can see the trailer that the rock troll is on being transported, and I couldn't quite tell where the heroes were, where their car was. Do you know what I mean? Almost like, did it get...
Gotcha.
And the thing that... when I first saw the page, I thought, wow, they got mashed up. But on the next page, they're speeding away from everything. So it just took me a moment to go, oh, okay. It's not... It was just one of the... I'm just trying to figure it out. Because it's still a beautifully executed page. I was just kind of, okay, what, where were things going there? But that's only a minor gripe for something that if you see it on your travels, folks, definitely pick it up. Nick's always done great Kickstarters anyway, so, and he's been completely upfront and communicative, because I think this went out a little later than he wanted it to, only by a couple of months, which is nothing really in the world of Kickstarter. But certainly he was very communicative of like, right, okay, here's where we are with it. This is going to be here.
But as long as you don't go dark and you're telling your backers that this is happening, that's happening, waiting for this, they can't really have you. You know what I mean? Unless you absolutely shit the bed.
I
but
mean,
if you're kind of generally everything's moving along, but it's not the rate you'd like it to be, what can you do?
Yeah. So Nick, I know on your Kickstarter page, if you want to see an example of like this artwork and how this book looks, then just look it up on Kickstarter. Stone Cop, created by Bryan, on there, because he's also someone that's like, see it for yourself. There's pages there, you know, and also if that doesn't sell you on it, what you know, we're buying comics. Do you know what I mean? You got to see what's going on. But the story itself, without giving anything away, read it, enjoy it, get some popcorn, maybe some blasting 80s synthwave with a bit of sax and some guitar solos, and I think you're in for a good time. The only advice I would give to you, Nick, is I can understand maybe in this world hedging your bets and doing it as a one shot, which you have, but sorry, my friend, I want more than one of this. So I'm looking for. I can't wait to. Stone Cop 2, let's get ready to rumble. I don't know. Start the for those about to rock. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of pun. I'm here for it. Yeah. And also this character, we've said about this a couple of times before, about characters within the indie scene. We've talked about, like, you know, Merrick, and obviously the Red Mask from Mars had a certain element of that too as well. Individual sort of characters that are fun to draw. I mean, I think I might have a stab at doing a cool little sketch of Stone Cop himself, because it's just one of those. It's nice to see another cool indie character about that you can just stick a flag in. So yeah, Stone Cop is my first one.
Nice one,
Dan. What's yours?
A book I got sent as a gift from Eamon Clark from the Mega City podcast.
Yay.
Hawk the Slayer. I got the first issue of this and I was like, I'm going to get this when it comes out in trade, and didn't think anything more of it. I actually watched the film earlier this week and it turned up yesterday and I absolutely just blazed through it.
I'm interested in this, Dan. Before you
written
get
by
into
Garth Ennis.
Artist
legend. Henry Flint. Cover artist Greg Staples does some fantastic work on the cover, and letters by Rob Steen. It's a direct continuation from the film. It's follows completely on. All the same, very similar locations, same characters. It's not afraid to kill some characters off. I was like, wow, okay, they're gone. The book starts off with a introduction by Simon Pegg, and I'm never going to know what that says because I'm never going to read it. So
I believe, if I remember correctly, did he voice something in one of the audio, maybe, or was that something else?
He might have done.
Yeah.
I feel like he sold his ilk down the river, Simon Pegg, and I don't want anything to do with a man. But this is
Peg,
written
you burnt
in the
that
same,
bridge.
like,
You burnt that bridge, Peg.
You burnt that bridge, son. Yeah, it takes itself seriously, but it's also throughout winking at the reader, knowing exactly what this is. Do you know what I mean? Garth Ennis has got that skill as a writer to sort of say, yeah, I'm writing this. You can read this absolutely straight, but there's elements in this when you realise he knows what he's writing, and there's characters that kind of like step out of the story just for a second to kind of like give the reader a look and then step back in. I do remember in the film there's an innkeeper.
Well, here's something for you, Dan. I've never seen Hawk the Slayer.
Never seen Hawk the Slayer.
So
it's on YouTube.
I will probably watch it now. But I know it's a cult classic, etc. But
it's essentially like a Dungeons and Dragons film.
Yeah, but budget. I'm going to speak for a lot of people here. There's a lot of people who are probably like me, haven't seen Hawk the Slayer. So,
okay,
you have a certain amount of enjoyment for it, and continue, because this book sounds amazing. So, but then, what's it like for new people? Is it accessible?
Yeah, totally. There's a kind of a 3 or 4 page synopsis at the beginning, which essentially recounts the story from the first film. Hawk, he's a younger brother. His older brother is like a bit of a wrong one called Voltan. Kills their father trying to get hold of this elfin mind sword, which his dying father gives to Hawk. So essentially, when he wheels the sword into his hand, it flies to him, comes to him. And where Voltan's like an absolute wrong and go around the land smashing stuff up, Hawk's the opposite, going around sort of doing good. But he's a bit of a hard bastard as well, Hawk. So it's the clash with the two brothers, and there's an innkeeper in it who's played by Roy Kinnear, fabulous English character actor, and he muses in the book. It's like, well, their dad called them Hawk and Voltan. Obviously, that was going to go wrong. It's like, yeah, who calls their kid Hawk? The older brother Voltan. And in the film, like, Jack Palance plays Voltan, the older brother, and he's sort of at the beginning of the film, he's confronting the father, and it's like, mate, you're fucking older than your dad. He's got to be older. The actor's got to be old. Jack Palance has got to be the actor older than the actor playing his dad. But yeah, whatever. And he's sort of like, he gets burnt in the face, and for the rest of the film, he's kind of like got a Darth Vader-esque mask covering half his face. There's some really lovely moments throughout. The art's really nice, really fitting, because you got characters like, I can't remember the name of the lead actor who plays Hawk. He was like an American actor, and he was over here briefly. I think it's John Terry. He's called, not the footballer.
It is indeed John Terry. I'm just looking at the YouTube page now.
And he appears as Felix Leiter in one of the Bonds, and it's completely and utterly forgettable in the role.
He was also taken out by Jack Nicholson in Batman '89.
Really?
No, that's Jack Palance.
Jack Palance. Oh, of course, Jack Palance.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's kind of in this. They don't focus on the likenesses like 100%, but like, yeah, I get it. I know exactly what you're talking about there. That's the character, and I honestly think it's an absolute rip-roaring read. It's really fun. Lots of carnage, swordplay, humor. It's written by Garth Ennis. What are you gonna do? It's great.
Yeah. I mean that's one of those ones where that is what hooks me about it.
It's totally written in the spirit of the original, and if you've not seen the original, go watch it on YouTube. It's hilarious. They use like special effects like with silly string and glowing balls to represent magic, and all the fighting's like sped up 100 times because they didn't have time to do any of the planning for the fighting. So it's ridiculous. But there's a character in it, the elf Bowman, and he's got a funny way of speaking. And they do that in this. They replicate it. So it's very well observed. Go check it out. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Okay, final one for this week is a book that I think has been mentioned a couple of times. I wouldn't be surprised if someone's recommended it. I think Tom Curry might have recommended it in the past, actually. So it's one that was on my periphery. That just happened to turn up on my Comixology sort of list, or just in general. You know, when you see a link and think, "Oh, I forgot about that."
Yeah, give that a
go. This is 8 Billion Genies. Have you heard of it?
That rings a bell.
Yeah,
that rings a bell.
This is by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown, the guys behind the series Curse Words, which we talked about years and years ago when that first came out.
Half the time when you and Tony say we talked about this, I was like, man, I can't remember.
I remember Curse Words because I think I recommended issue 1 back in the day. I didn't finish that series, not for any reason that I just not enough time in the day and stuff.
Sometimes these things happen. You just slip by the by.
And of course, this time has passed on this book. There are deluxe editions and obviously collections, etc. But issue 1 was like $150 and I just thought, do you know what? I want to read something new, but some of the newer titles just weren't really grabbing me so much.
Yeah.
So I thought
I really missed that Comixology New Comics Day. You could go through and look at all the stuff.
I did discover another book, but I'm doing 2 this week, so I'm not, But it makes it a little bit difficult to sometimes discover those gems, especially the way it's all mixed up and ordered. It's just it's not a pleasant browsing experience. But
no, I just don't browse it.
Yeah, but I do. I wanted to, and this one came about, and I read issue 1 pretty quickly. And I have bought the next few issues to continue.
There you go.
The next, it's an 8-issue series, and I haven't bought them all yet, but I probably will by the end of this month.
You can see that happening.
Yeah, I can see that happening. So, this is written by Charles Saul, art, colours, design and cover by Ryan Brown, letters by Chris Crank, colours assists by Kevin Nipstein, production design by Erica Schnatz. I believe it was an Image book. I think it was Image. Yes, it was Image. And what this is, for those who don't know, once again, it's called 8 Billion Genies. Clues in the title, really. If you had one wish, what would you wish for? Now, what if everyone else had one wish too? That's 8 billion genies. At exactly the same moment, everyone on Earth gets a genie and one wish. All hell breaks loose in a very entertaining way, and that's just the beginning. Buckle in for the wildest ride of the year. I knew what the concept was. I didn't read that. That's the written synopsis that you'll find online. And it's one of those beautiful. I mean, first off, fucking love this book. I can see why a lot of people did like it and got a kick out of it. It's another one of those classic. It's an epic tale told as I was reading this first issue, and it'll put the story will no doubt get bigger in some kind of way, possibly. But the first issue very much felt like it was almost an indie. One of those great sort of indie, quirky indie fantasy horror mystery where everyone's in one place.
Yes.
Because the concept's there. Everyone in the world gets a wish. There's something within the first issue that I think's interesting because while other characters are sort of interacting, you're getting to know some of the characters almost in that classic story. I'm going to go back to horror again because I'm just in that Halloween kind of mood. You know when a horror story starts and you get to know the cast a little bit, little pockets of information.
Yeah.
And there's all these people in this bar called the Lamp Wick. A colourful cast of characters. There's a band who are going to be playing there that night, so they're setting up their gear. There's a kid whose dad is an alcoholic and asleep on the face down on the bar. There's hints to clearly some emotional stuff going on there. There are sort of romantic angles, and there's the barman himself who he hints at sort of saying, "Oh, I've been around for a while." I immediately, when I heard that, I thought, "Oh God, is he magic?" You know, because my brain works like that. But then, as this is going on, elsewhere in the world, I believe it's in France, a woman is giving birth. And the genies appear shortly after this baby arrives. Now, there's no... for all of you people out there who have read this, you're probably sort of going... You're either nodding or you're smiling or you're going, no, it's got nothing to do with it, Vince, you're a maniac. It was one of those... That scene is only in that first issue at that specific time and nothing else. It doesn't... There's nothing really like that in the rest of the issue, really. Because the genies themselves are these little... They're just this little glowing... These little characters that are... They almost look like little cartoon figures that you find on an interface of a video game. Or someone a tutorial character. And they turn up and they've got a smiley face and they're like, "Hello, I'm your genie. You get one wish and that's it. After that, I'm gone. But you can have whatever you want." And you can imagine the world turns upside down. This is just in the first issue as well that immediately starts, because it's one of those classic synopsis that's sort of like, that's a genius idea because it's simple and yet it invites absolute fucking chaos. Because anyone that knows anything about genies or jinn or things like that, you wish for things and it may not. You may not turn out the way.
Quite malicious.
Yeah. And it hasn't really touched on that too much in this one, but a character does something very, very interesting to begin with, because and this is just in the first issue, folks. So follow it along.
You can wish for like a massive cock, and then you look outside your house and there's a massive bird walking around, crashing cars. And you're like, fuck.
Yep. Maybe we've got Dan's wish there. But that's
my reality, mate. I don't need to wish it out.
There it is. There it is. Hey. But the bartender of this bar, as soon as he hears this, he sort of immediately scratches his chin and he thinks it's really thoughtful. Ryan Brown's art's brilliant for this as well, because all the characters have their own individual look and you know exactly where they are. And the barman just looks at his genie and says, I wish that no wish that is made outside of this bar affects anyone who is in it now. And so, I mean, I've worded it terribly, but it is that kind of.
I understand.
He created a protective bubble. So if
someone wished them ill, they'd be fine. But then again, if someone wished them well, they would be unaffected too.
It immediately brings up an interesting, and that's one of the reasons I love this story. Outside,
I wonder if someone would actually be that altruistic.
Well, there are two people from the band who just happen to be outside when this is happening. One of them asks the other out on a date, and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you liked me like that." As soon as this genie moment happens, while they're outside the bar, she immediately says, "Oh, I wish that Brad loved me." I've got the name wrong, but I wish that Brad loved me, which is their bandmate. I wish he always had feelings for me. He had romantic feelings for me. Right in front of the guy that just essentially confessed, "I like you." Right, and and she sort of realizes at the moment, like, "Oh, sorry about that." And he turns around and he goes, "I wish," and you think he's going to wish against that or something like that, and he decides not to, so he's still got his in his pocket. So she runs into the bar and says, "Oh, Brad, is there something you want to say to me?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" Because what she wished for didn't happen because he's in the bar. So it immediately, and because it all comes out, you've got that wonderful emotional tension there that tells you, like, there's epic stuff going on, but some of the character work is going to be just the absolute.
Fantastic! Sounds great.
Yeah, the salt and pepper. Plus, you have one character. The dad wakes up and he goes to leave the bar, and the bartender says, "Don't do it." And he opens the door, and outside the city is carnage. There's someone in like an exo-loader sort of thing. There's a T-Rex eating someone. There is like someone who's a giant stomping through the city. Across the world, it's all kicking off. And I can't wait to see it.
It go to Bedlam.
It does go to Bedlam. Yeah. And the one reason I think this is almost a post-apocalyptic tale, because the way the book works as well, it gives you a splash page of the Earth. And it says, population of the Earth, 8 billion. Right? And then later on, when the Genies happens, it says, population of Earth, 8 billion. Genies, 8 billion. Then later on, that number goes down. And also, one of the pictures of the Earth is a cube. So fuck no, what someone wished for. So watching that whole, it's almost like the end of society, or how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's it's a great idea. First issue is brilliantly executed. It's not a grim end of the world kind of thing. I don't know if it'll even be the end of the world. But I look forward. I've got the next 3 issues that I'm going to read as soon as we finish recording this. Because it's that element of mystery that I love as well. Sort of like, where's this going? Where's this going? So 8 billion Genies. Thank you to whoever has recommended it or mentioned it in the past. It's stuck in my head, and now I see what you're all talking about. So thank you, everyone. I just want to shout out to anyone who said it to me. And there you go. That is just a small soupçon of comics for you to check out in the weekend. Would you like that, Dan? I'll do that to you. Now that you've made that wish, my word. But we will be back all together next week for an exciting show. We're not going to say too much about it yet. Planning, scheduling, all of that.
I've got some notes for you to give you after the show, Vince, so hang around for that.
Nice. You won't hear any of that, everyone.
No,
you don't. You none of you are aware of the vast multi-million-dollar production that goes into this show every week. The team that we have working for us, who and a shout out for the team. Don't you think, Dan? I think it's about time that after all these episodes, but just all of them. Dharma,
Big shout out to
Greg, Rachel, Ross.
The best boy, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, the gaffer. There's always a gaffer. But you're all legends. The grips. We can't do anything without grips. Seriously, I wouldn't be able to pick up a cup.
But yeah, we'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week. So, and we might put a few hints.
So you might be able to speak to Tony on this Thursday if you come along to the drink and drive. Hopefully, some other people who went to the cons Friday. Sorry, will be there to speak. We might hear a little bit more how Tony got on the last day of the Comic-Con on the next show.
Yes. So look forward to that, folks. If there's anything about this week's episode you want to further discuss, or maybe you've got a book or an event or something you'd like us to shout out on this show, perhaps you're about to launch a Kickstarter or something, and we have that little shout out section for it.
Send it in.
Much like charity work, charity drives, we're very eager to shout out about that. Several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media at the Awesome Pod, whatever the social media happens to be at the time when you listen to this. We'll be retweeting some good stuff and talking, shouting about the show. Get in touch with us there, and also on the Awesome Comics Podcast Slack group. Slack is basically it's just like a messaging app. I know there's lots of different things out there, but Slack's the one we use. And there's a wonderful community. It's sort of you can join. We'll just we'll vet you, sign you up, and there's just a wonderful community of people who are just there to talk about comics, comic subjects, comics history, art, films, memes. There's
feedback,
and it's not all in one list as well. We've set up different channels for it. So if you want to talk about some process things, if you're having a question, drop it in one of those chats, and someone will get involved. And they're always really helpful. We are fans of that community ourselves.
Yeah, pride ourselves in trying to help people out and get the best they can out of their work.
Yeah, and the community also does that as well. So so join that, and thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, just leave a review, say something nice about the show. Helps the algorithm and stuff. And we know quite a few people listen on Apple, so if you did, thank you very, very much. We really, really appreciate it. We're on other networks like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Dan?
Pod Watch for Me in the Night.
What? What?
That's the line as a line out of Hawk the Slayer.
Oh, nice. See, there's further evidence that I haven't seen it. So I'm going to read 8 Billion Genies, and then I'm going to watch Hawk the Slayer on YouTube. That's going to be the rest of my evening.
Yes.
And where can people find us online, etc.? Well, you can find Tony at nevereyeinganything.com.
He's been blogging about his experiences, so go check that out. Read what he's been up to.
He's been blogging everywhere, all over the walls, all over the ceiling.
Don't use the UV light in the hotel.
No, Jesus Christ. Like a paint bomb went off. Now, Dan, where can people find you?
You can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com, and you can buy my comics at bzcomics.bigcartel.com.
Nice. And you can find me on social media at Jester Diablo. Stay tuned, as always. Join us next week. We've got plenty more fun in the works. Some process, some very exciting guests coming up, and also we'll probably do an update on the little quiz, the prize draw.
Yes, the Viz.
Yeah, the Viz one. So wherever you are in the world, we hope you're happy, healthy, doing okay, because we have a laugh, but we truly appreciate every single person that listens to this show. You're all awesome yourself, and any new listeners, well, just stay tuned, because it's only going to get crazier from here. And from Dan, Tony may be a different time zone, but he's always in our hearts.
Yes, indeed.
And myself, have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Keep making fantastic comics. And when you've made those fantastic comics, let us know about them so we can shout about them. And until you hear our voices again, I guess, Dan, what should they do?
Stay awesome.
Couldn't say it fairer myself. See ya.
See you later.